Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Voice of Yamato number 52. We're going to do this as a weekly thing where we're going to cover the important topics that are going on in the League of Legends world. And additionally, I am going to try something where we do a global tier list to kind of understand where we're at in the world in regards to League of Legends. I'm using my sandbox cap. It's a nice cap. Not using a cap because I'm balding. I guess everyone's balding somewhat, but I'm not there yet. I'm like at the cusp. But I like the feel of a cap. Back when I was playing in the LEC, the LCS, EULCS, I was wearing a cap, always. The Team Solo MapD logo was a cap, and it was my cap. No cap. Okay. Let's start with the first discussion. So, a big discussion has been AD carry and the role. And I just wanted to offer my 2 cents or my 2 LPs. My 2 LPs? Get it? My 2 LPs. So, there's a discussion around the AD carry role. So, the commentary that was added by plenty of people, I think, is kind of, at least in my mind, I think the commentary that I've seen is misguided. I think there's a lot of based opinions, but at the same time, I think the conversation is in the wrong direction. So, AD carries are wrong in the fact that they are complaining about their champions. I think complaining about the champions that ADs need to play in order to be impactful, I think that is a very, very silly thing to complain about. League of Legends is going to go around in cycles because changes are actively happening in the game and the developers can't predict exactly where everything is going to land because sometimes OP things are hiding in plain sight just because people don't want to play it or people don't have the capacity to discover it just yet, right? The game isn't fully figured out, right? Because it's actively being changed all the time. So there's new builds, new champions, new things being found out often. We're getting closer to the point where the game is being figured out, but if Riot implements big patches like the grubs and so forth, and they change items, then, you kind of start over with the same principles in play, but with different, let's say, numbers on the variables that are important, right? So, AD carry, just like any other role, should be cyclical in terms of the champions that you play. Sometimes you play only tank jungle, sometimes you need to play carry jungle, sometimes you need to play mid-major, sometimes you play tanks mid, sometimes you play K-Santa mid, sometimes you play only Ryze TF, sometimes you play only R Italia to set up Vi, and sometimes you even go so far to only play Karma, and things change all the time. Jungle, the same thing. Sure, you could say that there's some staple picks that have been consistent in those positions, like Azir, Orianna, and let's say Sejuani and Maokai. But, most other roles need to go through changes. The most effective champions, according to statistics, are changing due to the patch notes, right? So that aspect of it, right? When AD carries are saying they can't play the champions that they want to play to enact their fantasy, I think this is a pointless debate. A lot of ADs were up in arms. You even went so far 2018 for Reckless to bench himself. Bwipo played together with Hilly-san, right? Even in that moment when everyone's playing Heimerdinger, Janna and Karma and other things in the AD carry position, Vladimir, Ryze, Yasuo, even in that case, right, Ruler was powerful enough to play his ADs because he didn't give a fuck, right? But sometimes changes happen and push you in a direction and you need to make a choice between playing the champions that you enjoy playing or if you want to play the strongest champions on the patch according to what the community perception is and the statistics are, right? So that part is completely mute. I don't care about this lamentation about my AD carry is not being playable. I want to play Caitlyn and I can't play it because it's very weak. You can play it. But every other role has to adapt. AD carry has had to adapt less because for the longest time you had AD being the focal point of the game. And for the longest time, there was 1 item, 2 item, 3 item, 3 item, you begin to dominate the game. It was also in the Sivir meta, also in the Aphelios meta, and so forth. Coming into 2024, where the problem lies for AD carry, in my opinion, the problem is not in the champions. Because if you want to succeed on AD carry, you can play Kalista, you can play Senna, you can play Smolder, you can play Seraphine, you can play lethality champs or on-hit champs. Currently, crit AD carries are really weak. But lethality is insanely OP because it's not gated by level. And lethality is very strong, right? Because you curve out better. And these ADs do well with the support pairings that you want to have. And they curve out pretty damn good. So there are definitely AD carries to play. You just don't want to play them because crit ADs are currently weak, right? So, in terms of balancing all ADs at once, it's a very tough task. I think Riot has put themselves in this position. It's very difficult to balance AD carry as a class because when you look at other roles like jungle, support, mid, top, they have different classes of champions, right? There's tanks, there's bruisers, there's range champs, there's enchanters, there's engaged champs, there's disengaged champs. There's different classes, right? You can say the same thing for AD, right? But I think the main issue, like, you will never create a situation where all ADs are ever equal. Because there's literal abominations. Champion legitimately that are abominations in the AD carry position. Think about the last 4 AD champions that were released. Smolder, Aphelios, Zeri, Senna. Maybe I'm missing one. But already those alone are balancing nightmares. Balancing nightmares. How much patch notes have we seen with these champions? Right? How many patch notes have we seen with these champions? Nyla as well is an abomination of a design. Because they gave her the Mordecai as a passive. They need to balance her around the fact that she generates more experience, which was very silly. Samira as well was silly for a very long time until they took her out the back and shot her in the head, right? It's like changes to the class are so impactful to the whole class because all of them are going in very, very separate directions. I'm not saying it's impossible, but balancing ADs for all of them to work is a nightmare, is my point, right? I don't envy that position for the Riot balance team. I don't envy that at all. Very difficult to find a way where Zeri can function in a world where Aphelios functions, especially after they removed Mythics because Gale Force and so forth, right? The main issue, I think, for the AD carry role is currently in competitive, I don't think it's a problem. In competitive, I think AD carries and teams have a way better understanding of the value assessment of the Void Grubs. In competitive. In competitive, there is Lucian being played, Kalista, Varus, Senna and Smolder. After that, you have the likes of Zeri, right? And then you have Zyra Khan. I think AD carry in competitive is in a good place. Because in competitive, teams understand the value assessment of Void Grubs a lot better. In solo queue, the main issue, right, is with the change of making top lane a much more fun role to play. Top lane is so fun, right? In a world where top lane becomes improved and there is attention and value to be gained playing for Void Grubs, it removes the fight from the position that has less agency. That is why AD carry feels so damn miserable. Supports are overtuned due to the support item and also the gold cost being reduced of every support item, so they can actively choose very carefully how to find great impact in the game. They can choose to find value topside, because if you race against a team that has Void Grubs, they're going to win, and top laners by design, just because of the isolation nature of it, their champions tend to be beefier and stronger, right? The issue in solo queue is that the value assessment of Void Grubs isn't there. Everyone wants to fight for Void Grubs. AD carries become isolated, and they are not a part of the game because they don't have agency. There are AD carries that are super strong that adapt to this type of gameplay. So that it's not a question of champions being flawed, because you can definitely play champions that work super, super well with this. But the issue is, in a world where top lane and topside has something to fight for, and the value trade of isolating your AD bot to roam with support, the pay that you need to invest in order to make that choice as a support is no longer there. Because in the previous years, right? In the previous years, dragons were everything. And then Rift Herald spawned at 8 minutes, and the main thing that was important was your condition of bot lane. The condition of bot lane was the first thing you assessed when it came to the Rift Herald. Because as a support, you needed to make sure to get all experienced bot to be level 6 for the Rift Herald fight. Was very important. So you couldn't really actively roam. You needed to get that experience first. Second, the Rift Herald was, once again, you either commit all the way with your AD onto the Rift Herald, or you got dove into the bottom side by stacking waves. Everything was centered around the role that had very little agency because of dragons and also because of the strength of the champions, right? Now, there is no Rift Herald. And also platings are worth less gold. With that being said, supports risk very little from roaming. They risk very little. And they can gain a lot, which makes supports inherently stronger, removes the fight from the ADs that don't have agency because they need to be bottom farm. And I think, for the sake of everyone, for the sake of mid lane, jungle, top lane, I think you need to find ways to make support more tethered to bot lane. Because support right now is too powerful. And that power, in terms of impact in the game, needs to be taken from somewhere. And it's currently being taken from the bot lane position. And I think that's the main issue. I think the fight needs to be brought back into bot lane. I don't think it's an issue of champions. I really don't think so. Because you can play champions that are perfect for this. A good example is World Elite versus Bilibili. They played Jhin Bard. He picked Jhin because he has a Bard. He knows this Bard is going to piss off and leave him. Jhin thrives on low economy, can clear waves, can do fine. Can always impact fights even if he's cut off. So he's picking Jhin because he has a Bard. Smart. If he goes Bard Jinx, and Jinx gets fucked on the economy, and then he complains, I can't play my crit AD, I want to carry. Then, he's at fault, right? You can adapt to this idea that I presented to you, that the fight can occur in different places than around bottom side. And you can come to terms with that. In competitive, I don't think this is an issue at all. In competitive, this is not an issue at all. We had like the most recent examples. Today we had Lucian Nami versus Zeri Lulu. They need to be on the wave, they need to fight, they need to contest 2v2, 3v3 all the time. That's perfectly cool. That's cool. That's very, very nice, right? In competitive, it's a non-issue. We saw Kalista Mumu versus Renata Varus. 3v3 bot side is crucial. Whoever takes initiative in that lane is going to win. 3v3s, fireworks, really, really, you know, very bot lane centric game because the draft told them to do so. Sometimes you have Alistar versus Rakan. Oh, there's no dives happening bot. Ganks are very unlikely. Both teams can ward. Whoever's slow pushing is at an advantage. Oh, it's a topside game because bot lane is very chill. In competitive, I don't think it's an issue because in competitive, people really, really, really have a better understanding of the Void Grub assessment. But nowadays, when I watch solo queue or look at solo queue, there's fights around Void Grubs no matter what. No matter what. And the psychology of Void Grubs is cool. You know, it's like, I think the game is more fun. AD carries are just going through a bit of a top lane experience. It's like, if you're jungle in solo queue nowadays, right? You get pulled to Void Grubs even if you ping you want to dive bot in the second wave. No, you get pulled to Void Grubs. Your Janna support has only one gear, and that is be there on Void Grubs no matter what. They insist. And then if you don't go, there's no dive bot anyway. You have to go. You get forced. You get strong armed. So, in my mind, I think maybe there's a way to make dragons more interesting, but I don't think this is a problem in competitive. I think competitive is in a good place. I really think so. I think there are champions that are broken. Senna, Smolder in some games. I think Smolder is balanced because he has clear flaws. I understand that people think Smolder is giga broken. It is giga broken when it gets to the point where it is, right? If you see two shit teams scrap it out, Smolder looks broken. If you see a team get monster rammed because Smolder is so weak early game, I think that's fair, you know? Clear weaknesses, clear strengths. Maybe it can have some tuning, you know? Maybe you make the execute value 250 instead of 225. I think that would be like a really, really nice nerf because then the window where you have the execute in preparation for Drake 4 is going to be larger, right? I think that is, of course, you know, good. Should Riot separate pro play and solo queue? No. Because whoever plays solo queue needs to feed into the delusion that they are playing the same game that the players that they are looking up to are. If you break that chain, you don't you lose out on the marketing tool that League of Legends is. You want every player to play to see how in some weird world, you know, it's like I'm 28, right? And my like a part of my, like the dumb side of my ego is like, oh, honestly, if I tried, I could probably become a UFC fighter. And this is so delusional, you know, it's so delusional because like I have limited, like I have fight experience, I've done training, but like UFC fighters, they have worked entire life. But you know, but in your mind, it's like, if I tried to, I would be able to. It's just, I want to sit here and talk about League of Legends, so I'm not going to. And I think if anything, bot lane would be more fun to play for ADs if they make dragons more interesting. That's where I'm at. So, because I think the role support needs to have reasons to say bot. That's My take in solo queue, right? I think pro play bot lane is in a good place. There are champions that need to be nerfed and changed, but I think bot lane is in a good place in solo queue, in competitive, sorry. In solo queue, I understand why it's painful. Because the AD role has so little agency. You queue AD and the majority of the time, you are just catching waves and hoping that you don't get dove. And I can see why that is boring as fuck. Because it is. How did the Pentakill tournament go? I got disqualified. Apparently, you are not allowed to FF when you think you can win. And I didn't know that. I thought as long as everyone agrees on your team to FF, that it's okay. But the thing is, I don't have plausible deniability. I don't have plausible deniability because we did indeed say that this was the plan. So, there's that. Something I want to add in terms of the conversation of roles. I really don't like the change that they did to jungle. The jungle gets less experience from minions. I hate that that's in place. I think that should be removed. I don't know why that's in place. I really don't like it. I think that should be removed. Or at least toned down, you know? Why is, like, I think it being in place, right? It's like you catching a big wave because your top laner died. Like, why shouldn't that benefit you? Why shouldn't that benefit you? At least, like, cut it down a bit, you know? I think jungle camp XP is fine. I just don't think that junglers should be punished for taking lane minions. I don't think that that is good. Tarek comp is coming back then. It's like there's ways to make the penalty in a way where, you know, it makes sense, you know? I think it's just, it feels very bad to not get XP from minions. I think this hurts the jungle role, and it's like you can play a good game and do the right decisions and fall behind on XP even though you've done things that are inherently valuable, right? For you personally. I just think the penalty is too harsh. Okay, I think I've covered everything about the AD carry discussion, right? I think that the AD carry discussion, you know, supports need to be nerfed and they need to have more reasons to say bot. It's really important. I think the whole catch-up thing, I think, is in a good place. Honestly, I've played many games where I'm 3-4 levels ahead, and like it's more about like how I fuck with the enemy, right? What I wanted to look at next, I wanted to look at the Team Heretics video. I saved my reaction till this moment. The Team Heretics video. Let's pull it up. All right. Let's check it out. This is going to be fun. I saved this. I saved this for this moment.
and Chief Gaming Officer of Team Heretics. I'm also here with Albert, our General Manager of League of Legends, and we are here today to talk about the upcoming...
Yeah, why are they looking like they're about to cry, man? Like they look like they're about to cry. All right.
Changes in our LEC team. We identified multiple issues in the team, with one of them being the lack of leadership and communication.
Jankos, Perkz, Wunder. Lack of leadership and communication. It doesn't even look like they believe in what they're saying. But let's continue. Let's continue.
Especially after the early game, and that's why Trimby came as an option. Even though Kaiser is a really good and skilled player, we think that Trimby can bring that skill into the team, which is something that we are missing and is really affecting us. But
I think so. Basically, Trimby for Kaiser, I think that's good. I'm gonna say it plain and blank. I think that's a good decision. I think that's a good decision. My understanding is this is something that everyone on the team agreed with. They wanted to get Trimby. And Kaiser is someone that worked together with Perkz. And sometimes, I feel bad for Kaiser. He had a fine split after a very shitty year. But Team Heretics aspire for more. And also, keep in mind, the market sometimes tells you a story, right? The market sometimes tells you a story. Let's make an extreme example. Chovy is on the market in Korea. Yeah, a player like BDD can get fucked. A player like Zeka could get fucked. Everyone can get fucked. Every mid laner in China can get fucked besides maybe Knight, right? So, sometimes the market dictates how much competition there is for your position. And Trimby being available is indeed like a tough break for Kaiser. What's it to him that Trimby is available? Trimby as an upgrade. Trimby is an upgrade. And I can confirm that all the players involved did agree with that decision. I think it's a bonus. It's a good thing. Let's continue.
Even though we knew that that was an issue, it was not the only issue. That's why we sat down with everyone, staff, coaches, players, to really make sure that the change in the support was not the only change that would be made in the team going to Spring Split. Also, several things in terms of structure, discipline, and other topics had to be improved and had to be modified.
Perfectly normal, right? KC, we got 10th place. We had those same conversations. We needed to improve our process. We need to do a lot of things better. A lot of things needed to change internally, right? A change isn't only a change in personnel or changing players. A change in the method and the demand and the pressure are also changes, right? So this makes perfect sense.
Because we didn't want to believe that with the change in the support, everything would be fixed.
True.
We wanted to make sure that there was enough self-awareness in the group to understand also other topics that were critical to improve and to change.
Fair.
And to make sure that Spring Split would be much more successful for the team.
After these 1v1 talks, I believe most of the players were aligned and everyone was more aligned with the issues we found out. We pushed that a lot, and when we started the scrims on Spring Split, we felt that the issues were still there, that the problem was still there, and we were not only not improving, also playing worse than from Winter Split, okay? And for us, not doing anything was not an option, okay? We don't care if we have to push the team a lot and push the players, but we need results and we need to be playing better. We were still dysfunctional as
Oh, I think the weird thing is us knowing what went down, right? So basically we know that Perkz had a dispute with Aranea, and that is what was the was the pushing point, right? Was the pushing point. And that's what makes everything that they say is just mute, right? If you needed to wait for Perkz to argue with you, for you to make a decision, your decision is rooted in completely the wrong things. It has nothing to do with Perkz and his performance. That's the truth of it. He said himself, they said themselves that they all aligned. They all aligned, okay? They all aligned. And then all of a sudden, they didn't anymore. And this is where it really comes across as goofy, right? Because you scrim for a very certain amount of time. You have issues in scrims, okay, that's what they say. Issues in scrims, you're playing worse. Who's perceiving that they play worse, right? Because I'd rather not hear about their performance and their level from the people in their position. Why is Peter Dunn not here? Someone needs to leak what the argument was about. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. I have very limited information, okay? But it's basically it's like Perkz was told about like how his matchup should be played. And Perkz got pissed off and just said, you don't know anything about the game. Like, players take pride. Players take great pride, okay, in the game. If you give players feedback that is rooted in bullshit, all players are gonna fucking fight you back. They're gonna fight you back on that. Respect and trust needs to be fucking bulletproof. Because you need to have an open mind always. You need to be capable of learning from your players and understanding your players and delivering very precise information. A lot of players, most players, would react like this. And keep in mind, I only have this little anecdote, like this little piece of information. Maybe there's more. Maybe more information comes out and then I adjust my opinion. But with the information I currently have, it's very silly. Okay? It's just that there's a time and a place. There's a time and a place, right? And once again, I repeat, Perkz's performance is not the question here. Because they knew his performance. And if they made the decision, right? If they made the decision, they said after winter split, they're like, okay, it's time, we're gonna sub in Zviru. After the winter split. People will be like, okay, it's related to his fucking performance in winter. But this is happening 2 weeks, 1 week away from the match. If they benched him right after winter, people would be like, fuck, Perkz didn't play so well, man. He didn't play so well. They want to take a risk, they're taking a risk, right? Casey took a risk, they benched their coach, right? They benched their coach, they're taking a big risk. They're taking a risk. They didn't have a good performance. Maybe, just maybe this is what is going to work, right? At least, right? They had the courtesy to tell me right after winter, you know? We didn't fucking scrim for 2 weeks and then they come in and say, oh, you argue with the GM. You know? Even though I think it's bullshit what happened to me, it is what it is, you know? So, that's why people were saying, oh, but Perkz is washed. It has nothing to do with this. Nothing to do with it. Nothing. it just comes across as a situation where Team Heretics the upper management of Team Heretics wanted to make the decision. They couldn't because there was heavy disagreement. And then they waited for something that they could use as the excuse to pull the plug. Let's continue. But once again, ZNX, oh lol. You really don't understand the point. But Perkz is washed now. You really don't get the point. I don't know if it's because English is your fourth language or if you're intentionally trying to be obtuse. It has nothing to do with the conversation. Because if it came down to Perkz's performance, the decision should have been done not after 2 weeks of screaming, whatever time they took.
Are now used.
If it happened right after winter split, maybe the players would disagree, maybe something, but aesthetically, right, outwards, it would make a lot more sense.
Mention. And the key point that we have, or the special point that we have, is that we have an academy that is a really good academy, a really good project that we believe from day one on them. That's why.
Okay, believe in day one, all right? Believing in day one, Ruby, Viteo, it's like Ruby, Evie, and then Viteo. Viteo is solid. Viteo is cool, right? Viteo is cool. Jack got benched, you know, they also kind of, they were also building something, right? They had the Viteo, Mersa, all that action going on, you know, and they cut that roster into pieces, right? They cut that roster into pieces. So this right here is strange. Well, let's let him finish the sentence.
Last year, Flacket came to a roster, and this year we have this second announcement that we're about to make.
So, as many of you already know, Swyro is going to be promoted to LEC, where
Swyro. I've never heard someone say his name out loud. I thought Zviru. Like Zivu. Zviru. Swyro. Sounds like the name of a dragon.
we're really happy because he's been a key player for our academy team success for.
This is also kind of crazy, right? Because I don't envy the position that Swyro is in. Swyro the Dragon. So, I don't know how good he is as a player. I don't watch too much of the MVP. I don't know how good he is. And this has nothing to do with how good he is. Maybe he's the GOAT. If he's the GOAT, he's the GOAT. But they are doing good in the LVP, is my understanding. People have told me that they are one of the front runners to do really, really well at EMA Masters. He now gets thrown into this situation, has 1 week to prep with the LEC team, and he needs to play LVP at the same time. He's doing a fucking gauntlet. He's playing 5 competitive matches in a row. That is Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Certus is signed, so Certus is playing LVP. He's playing it 100%. I understand that Certus is signed, but can he play right away? Because there's a contract database type of thing. And there you go. Thank you for confirming, guys. Zviru is playing the first 2 matches. So, still, 5 matches in a row. That's tough work for Zviru, man. Very tough work. And I hope he does well. For the sake of him and the rest of the boys, I hope he does well, man. God bless him. I hope he does well.
For already 3 years from now. A lot of you might be questioning why this change was not planned before, after the first split. This is something that we've been, of course, discussing and exploring with everyone. And in the conversations after the poor performance of winter split, we discussed with everyone in the team, and everyone was highly valuing the effort and work that Luka was putting to make sure that the team was successful and to improve his performance as well. But after going into scrims and dynamics into a spring split and seeing that there was no improvement in the dynamic of the team and the team was still stuck in a lot of issues that we identified during the first split, we really thought that a change was needed to be made, and that's why we stepped in.
A lot of people have been also talking about me with the famous dispute with the manager, something like this. This is a matter of multiple issues that we found out. We think that someone like Swido can come with a lot of motivation and push the rest of the players, because that's something that in this first day of a scrim that Swido has been playing, has been pushing everyone into a correct and positive way, which is something we were missing before. And at the same time, probably the international speaker doesn't see this, but I have been defending and supporting Luka since day one. And I still think that he's a great player. But for the dynamics and for the synergy of this team, right now, the best we can do is having Swido on the main roster.
We know that most of you are disappointed by the results that we had during the first split, but this is not how it starts, it's about how it ends. And last year we also had a rough first split, and we ended in summer split being one of the best teams in the LEC. So we are confident that we are doing everything possible and everyone in the team is aligned to be successful and to have a good season. And yeah, this is pretty much it.
Thank you very much everyone for following us, for supporting us. Trust in the process, as many of you guys will say, and vamos Heretics.
All right. They made their own bed, guys. They made their own bed here. The thing is, maybe Zyro is going to make the team better, right? But the communication of this and the trust between management and the players is going to leave some deep wounds, because I think that the players are in a very, very precarious situation. And how this comes across to the community, this is, not a good one. Not a good one. And once again, I repeat, it's not a question of the performance, right? It's not a question of the performance. It's just how it was handled. Let's take a look at this.
On spring split, we felt that the issues were still there, that the problem was still there, and we were not only not improving, also playing worse than from winter split, okay?
By the way, I don't know how much can I talk about this, because these are my owners and they can kick me whenever they want, right? But I feel I just disagree with that statement. I'm sorry, I disagree. And if I get kicked for saying that, that's fine. I just disagree what was said right now. But I'm not gonna get into it.
And for us, not doing anything was not an option.
Hey, yo! A little peek behind the curtain, guys. A little peek behind the curtain. That is terrible. Good luck, Zvyro Trimbilol in LEC. With this amazing general manager, only sky is the limit. Holy moly. The bench of Evie. Shit. It's a bad look. It's a very, very bad look, guys. Very, very bad look. Very poorly managed, Very poorly managed. Like, if they did this right after winter, it would have come across a lot better. But now, basically this confirms that the lack of Peter Dunn, Yanko's disagreeing. It confirms all of our suspicions. It confirms all of our suspicions. That's tough, man. That's tough. That is tough. And maybe there's a world still where Perkz will play. I don't know if the Team Heretics management has the humility to make such a decision. I don't know if they have the humility to make such a decision. I'm really not sure. To reinstate Perkz. What happened to Peter Dunn? Well, the lack of Peter Dunn in this video. The lack of Peter Dunn in this video is what is dooming. So, I feel bad for Perkz, you know, because it's not a good way to go out, you know. I can relate to it to some degree, right? Because for me, going out after winter, that was not a good way to go out, you know. Put a gun to my head, please, you know. Put a gun to my head, please, and give me spring. And if I don't fucking deliver in spring, just fucking shoot me in the head and I will shake your hand for it, you know. This is also a terrible way to go out for Perkz. Even worse, way worse. Because at least I didn't scrim for a couple of weeks, right? Yeah, the leaked DMs for Peter Dunn are fucking hilarious, no? Do you have them? Do you have them? Because that's a pretty funny part of the conversation. Peter Dunn, can you link those Peter Dunn tweets? The leaked DMs, those are hilarious. Those are really funny. For many reasons. You can find them, Slopto, I believe in you. Trimby is the support. Trimby is indeed the support. We're waiting for Slopto to give us the leaked DMs if you're listening to this and you are surprised by the silence. Alright. No. I'm not sure what this is. What is this? This off-season really is a meme that keeps on giving. Wait, this is something completely different. This obviously really is a meme that keeps on giving and probably there's more coming. Apparently there are 2 new ways to get insta-hire to LEC and none is related to proven results. Bro, this is 2022. Become a wash pro player and swap to first-time coaching, demote an ERL team. I was just told by Peter, and thank you for the feedback on hiring, that he's there as a very junior coach in our system. Even if he didn't immediately contribute, that would be fine. He would have time to grow into the position. It is completely intolerable that you would leak a private Twitter DM like this. But fine. Let me put the entire conversation out from my side. I have better ethics than to make your side public, but I won't tolerate this mischaracterization. He's there as a very junior coach in our system. Even if he didn't immediately contribute, that would be fine. He would have time to grow into the position, and we would help him in his development. Your tweet is frankly very insulting, as I've been very public in how I go about choosing coaches. We didn't do a full 300 plus open application process because of how late in the process I joined Heretics. There was close to 20 plus person shortlist and several other qualified. Honestly, this is boring. This is the one. This is the one. Guys, I'm not a bad person. I only want the truth. So guy by yourself and make your own statement. That's why you help yourself to noose around your neck, Peter. Jesus Christ. You never win ADC with such dumb decisions, but I know why I don't like you since... Jesus Christ. What on earth are you talking about? This guy... Like, why would you respond to this, Peter? Peter! Peter! Peter, don't respond to this guy! Kaiser bench rumors. Letting Kirei take a larger role in drafting on stage next split? Perkz role swap? Question mark? I'm sorry, I have no idea what you're talking about. Look Kaiser Twitter. Why would Team Heretics bench Kaiser? Peter. I don't know. He played very well this split, so maybe you can give me the answer. You read it? If you make this decision, I cannot help you anymore. I'm currently on a train back home to Netherlands. It's obviously people trolling around. Don't take everything so seriously. But thank you for the random flame. Two things. The fact that this guy thinks he's helping anyone is crazy. Second, the fact that Peter is replying to this dude with shit like this, it just kind of ties into this whole story in a really funny way. It ties into the story in a really, really funny way. Doesn't it? It really, really ties into the story in a funny way. It does, doesn't it? Let's leave it at that. Obviously, bro, like this guy, like the person who's sending him these messages just sent so many fucking red flags. Like, look at the first message. Wait, there's more. Peter. You're a liar. Shameless. There's more. Do you really think I proved their chances like this? Whilst on a train to a different country? Holy fuck! Peter. Come on, Peter. Maybe these messages are faked. I doubt it. But this is terrible, man. This is terrible, man. This is... Why is he even responding? This guy is weird as fuck, by the way. Don't support this shit, bro. Don't support this shit. This guy is a fucking weirdo, innit? Bro. This guy is fucking weird as fuck, man. Well, why do you engage? No, this isn't even remote. Like, the whole situation isn't remotely close to KC. KC fired me, benched me right after the winter split. They took a decision I disagree with, but at least they were sharp. They did it. They ripped off the band-aid. We didn't fucking practice. They didn't fucking wait for me to have some argument to use it as a reason, right? But this is all fucking goofy, man. This is a rough way to go for Perkz, man. I'm benched, meaning that I'm still on the contract with Casey, right? Still on the contract with Casey. Okay. I think that ends the saga there, man, for Team Heretics. We're gonna watch that very closely. There's been a piece of news that the LEC released. Let me just pull it up. Let me pull it up. All right, so this one. So we have pre-recorded drafts. Hope everyone's excited for the return of the LEC this weekend. I wanted to provide you all with an update ahead of Split to let you know that we are implementing pre-recorded drafting for the regular season of spring. We decided to implement this change to reduce transition times. I think this is a pretty cool part of the LCS. What do we miss out on? We miss out on live reactions, and also, of course, in best of threes and best of fives, they are going to go back. You know, they are going to go back to, you know, the regular system, right? Something to highlight here from the competitive side, okay? Something to highlight here from the competitive side. You are going to complete the draft and have a lot of time to prepare. That poses an entirely different and new challenge, which is very interesting because these drafts will be done while the game before is being played. So you create a situation where teams are going to be sitting on the draft that has been made for a solid 20 minutes and then play it. The weird part of this, okay, is that it trains a skill set. It trains a skill set that is completely pointless when it comes to international competition, which is very weird to me. You'll be able to warm up, is my understanding, meaning you can do 1v1s. I doubt that you'll be able to, you shouldn't be allowed to talk with anyone from outside. I don't know how many coaches are allowed to be involved. Because is it only the coaches on stage that are allowed to be with the players? Like, you have 2 coaches on stage. You have 2 coaches, 5 players. After draft, are they allowed to talk with their manager? Are they allowed to talk with the additional coaches? Some teams with larger coaching staff are going to be hurt by this, right? Some coaching staffs are focused on 2 individuals. And then the teams, it's like, are you allowed to 1v1 players from outside? If I just make a lobby and a client, I believe that they shouldn't be allowed to communicate with anyone from outside of the team. That should be a given. Shouldn't be, right? So no phones, no nothing. I imagine that you would just 1v1 within your team. So teams with players that have big champion pools, they're going to have a benefit. It's like, imagine you're going to play a matchup on stage. And then Midwin locks in a champion that you have 0 experience against. Then you have 20 minutes. 20 minutes to break that shit down. 20 minutes. There's no champion select stress. So, this is going to be interesting. So in my mind, I think the gain of time is not worth it. Because from the competitive side, this is too much. So we shall see. Because let me tell you this, right? Let me tell you this. When I'm on stage, we do the draft, the time is very limited. Like I like when I, depending on the players that I work with, I break down how I believe they should play mid-game, how they should fight, central abilities, the first path, the first clear, how they should itemize, and basically how like additional details that we have in terms of our prep. So having 20 minutes there, it should have been pre-selected, not pre-recorded. What do you mean? That's exactly the same thing. Jankos was talking about one stream about one more change that the teams are objecting to, and he doesn't know if to be held up. Any thoughts? I know which change he's talking about, and that change went through. So basically, like, the entire staff will be allowed to be involved. I think that's the change that was discussed, as far as I know. Which I think is a good change, because why would you want to hurt the teams that have larger staffs? You know? I think that's the one. Yo, Miss Fatal, thank you very much for the tier 1. I appreciate you. Okay. So, like, as a product, right? when I was watching LCS, I didn't think about these details from the competitive aspect at all. As a product, it's super cool. It's super, super cool. I think the less time between the games is a super nice thing for the entertainment. LCS being like 3 hours is really cool. Like, they've really streamlined the process of the games. I think it's very nice. And we need to always remember that this is an entertainment vehicle, right? And for the viewership, it's the most important. But competition suffers here. It's the same when they raise the age from 17 to 18. It's not the case in Korea. In Korea, you have young players coming in, and we have players. We've had players at that age win the World Championship and win the league. Pays, Jackie Love, Faker, I believe. There's many more, right? Zeus, right? Very young players. Having the competitive age start at 18 in the LEC hurts the competitive. But it opens the door to sponsorships that can provide a lot of money and revenue to teams. So the product needs to be entertaining. People need to make money. And that's the only way things survive, right? It's like, imagine you're cooking food, right? And you want the food to be as healthy as possible. But you want people to also like it. So you add some butter, you add some cream, some sugar sometime. Delicious. Moves you away from it being healthy, but the taste is a little bit more addictive, a little bit more delicious. China became so big not because it's best broadcast, but because they have great players. China has the largest player base by far, and the largest viewership by far. And also, the Chinese broadcast is pretty fucking lit, by the way. The Chinese broadcast is pretty fucking lit, I'm telling you that much. Korea in Europe had a big first mover advantage. And also they have Faker, right? So like you had Monte Cristo and Doha, and Korea was winning the early World Championships. That's a snowball of history. And the LPL was inaccessible. The LPL official broadcast came to Twitch and YouTube very late. So it's not as established as the Korean broadcast to the West. Faker is a very important thing. And of course, winning the early World Championship was super, super important. And also the fact that European teams actually competed in OGN. You guys remember COG, Froggen, and all that good stuff, right? Froggen and all that good stuff. But bro, the intro song, the intros, everything, you know, it's sick. What is
Everyone,
this?
I'm Lothar, the head of esports for Giantex.
Oh,
and
shit!
First of all, I want to thank you for your gratitude during the entire winter split. We all know and we're aware that the results were not what we wanted, and this is why we're here today, to talk about what changes we're going to make for the LEC.
Okay, reply, bro.
So after winter split, we realized that change in the coaching staff it was needed. So we have decided to promote Kaz from the strategic coach to the head coach position, and at the same time to promote Trick from the positional coach position to the strategic coach position, joining the team here in Berlin moving forward. I think both of them are completely ready to fulfill their new roles. Kaz is someone that has a lot of experience. He is someone that already proved that knows how to win.
Cass was in Mad Lions when they won, and additionally, like Excel definitely, you know, Excel went up when he came in. You know, you guys remember the 100 Thieves fiasco, where he just left in the middle of the split?
So for sure he can fulfill the head coach position, even if in the past he has never been a head coach. About Rick, he's really smart about the game. He has a lot of knowledge. He wants to start his career as a professional coach in League of Legends, and he is extremely motivated and passionate about it. So it's definitely really good to have someone like him right now, and we're extremely lucky. I think he's also perfect fit.
GX went up when Hedon joined.
Already worked in the past with players like Odoami and Nicknar.
The spring split was still quite lackluster, no? It was summer that was important for GX. And Cass joined somewhere there, you know? But obviously, I don't want to sit here and speculate on what coaches do. All I know is Cass has a pretty decent track record. Like, spring was not that great. Like, spring was tragic, no? For Giants.
And he has been positional coaching pitch during the last months. So he already has a really good relationship with the players and is a great fit for our team. With that being said, it's time to say goodbye to Hedon, which is someone that joined Excel in a really complicated situation and made the team previous year compete in the final of the LEC during summer split. But despite all the analysis, and this has not been an easy decision, but it was what we decided that is the best decision moving forward for the team. Hedon left a mark in Giant X, and he will be missed. We appreciate your understanding and patience, and we definitely believe that with your support, we are going to overcome the situation and build the best future for Giant X. Thank you so much.
All right. Simple. I think that's cool. Good for them. Nothing to add there, right? All right. Did you watch the Unhinged Heretics video? Yes. But I think we are moving on. Well, I think we've covered everything, right? We've covered everything. I think now is a good time for us to talk about a global tier list. Let me pull up a tier list maker. I need to find a tier list maker with all major regions. I have one for 2023. 2023 works, no? I think it works. I think there's no team that is missing. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I preface this by saying my criteria is my expectations for how well I believe these teams are going to do in spring. It isn't the question of their current form. It is about their conclusion after spring split is a close. So, remember this as I say this, because if I would go on current form, my list would look very different. If these teams would play against each other tomorrow, I would judge them different. My criteria on my list is based off of the macro ceiling that I've seen, the quality of the wins, the quality of the losses, lane phase, draft ingenuity, and their long-term prospects based off of these things in terms of the frame of spring split. So it's not a question of current form and where they are, it's about the prospects of spring based off of what these teams have shown. Past pedigrees play a role, of course, like T1 and some of these teams having, rosters that have players that have been successful in the previous year and they carry momentum into this one. That definitely has an impact. But keep in mind these criteria as you scrutinize the list. And that, of course, I welcome, because this list will be filled with my bias. Because in the end, it is my list. Some things that I perceive, I find more important. Maybe some things you perceive are more important. And that's what makes this into a very, very interesting discussion. This is something that we will fine-tune every week. And we will follow up on it. So, left to right, this is where the rating is. So, if I put T1 first, and then a team to the right of them, that means that T1 is ahead of that team. Meaning they are number 1, Bilibili number 2. Okay. Let's begin. We are going to do a top 10 version of this. Let's begin. Top 10 list, global tier list of a projection of how teams are going to end their spring season and potentially even prospects towards MSI. We are going to, I add that I have watched every single LCK game, every single LPL game. I've watched all of Europe. And I've watched very little of the LCS. I watched the LCS last weekend, and I can say that there is nothing that tells me that any LCS team should be in the top 10. So, we're in the clear, I believe. And if LCS teams choose to surprise in the coming weeks, of course, then I will, digress. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, the first team that I believe has the most interesting prospects coming into spring is T1. T1 carry a lot of momentum from the previous year. I think that in terms of where their players are at, I think that it's a very, very complete roster. They carry a lot of momentum, a lot of pressure. I think the key thing that stands out to me about this roster currently is just Faker's performance. Faker has not performed well. Well, he's performed well, but he has not performed at the level that he's currently performing at in the LCK. So most recently in summer, he was injured, fair play. Very tough to come back from injury. He was 4 weeks off from the game and they managed to make finals. And then he came into the World Championship. He was the best mid laner at the World Championship. And Faker now is performing really, really well. He has a very vast champion pool, and it's kind of giving hints of Faker of old. And that is very impressive to me. Zeus is Zeus. Gumuyushi and Korea are doing Gumuyushi and Korea things. Owner, the mechanical demon, doesn't have the same level of performance that he did, of course, during the World Championship, because that is very, very tough to beat, but he's up there. One thing to highlight here is, of course, Owner was sick. They subbed in Guon, which of course is going to impact their matchup against Gen.G. If T1 and Gen.G face off tomorrow, it's happening later this week, I would probably favor Gen.G in the short term. But in the long term, if we're thinking about spring prospects and the potential MSI, I believe T1 is going to be the stronger team. So that carries me over to the second team, which to me is Bilibili. So, both T1 and Bilibili, they're far from perfect. But I'm looking at macro ceilings, individual skill ceilings, lane phase, and also draft ingenuity. I think Bilibili, with their change now, with Knight for Yagao, I think that they are very meta-proof, right? The main thing to pay attention to here is Bin. How is he going to find ways to be super impactful? A lot of Bilibili games, sometimes, are messy, but they find ways to win games anyway, right? Very similar to JDG of last year. JDG, they managed to top the standings, right? Below Bilibili, but they drop games every now and then. They made mistakes. Kanavi sometimes inted, Knight sometimes inted, but they got through it. And they do it in a way that is very classy. It's like the level of individual play from each player here on Bilibili is really, really, really top. And if we talk about current level discipline, Gen.G is probably the top team that is the most disciplined. Most clean games, they have an advantage. You know they're going to really, really hammer the enemy home. Really fucking hard. But when we think about the long-term prospects, the goals of T1, the goals of Bilibili, and the identity that we know that they can achieve, I believe, reaches a little bit of a higher essence. Right? Because when I think of Gen.G, I think that they will beat down on any team that has weaker individual players with them. But they will be truly tested when Gen.G play against the likes of Bilibili and T1 when they're in form, because they have the player capacity to match you. And that is where you get tested really, really hard. Because right now, Gen.G have such an easy time because they are so much individually better than everyone. And the true test for Gen.G will be when getting the foot through the door isn't as easy. But maybe Gen.G is just good enough to shock us all. Which puts Gen.G third for me. I put Gen.G third here. Chovy, insane form. Canyon, wonderful. Keen, a really, really strong player. Pace today was absolutely fantastic against Hanwha Life. Made Viper look like his son. You know, Gen.G is a very complete roster with fantastic individual skill. Fantastic individual skill. At the highest level, the pinnacle that the teams will reach. Because keep in mind, right? Regular split, you don't have the same intensity in your preparation towards opponents. Best of fives is a very different beast because you are tuned in and really, really focused in on the same opponent. That's what's so tough about the LPL format and also the LCK format. You play best of threes, sometimes with a two-day break, right? And when you're high up in the standings, you don't form yourself to beat a specific team. You form yourself to become as good as possible. It's a very, very different game. That's why G2 as well, when they come into best of fives, they do look sharper, right? They look sharper. But I put Gen.G third in the S+ tier. The next team that I would put here is, need to find them, Top Esports. I put Top Esports above JDG currently, because JDG would be my next one. Top Esports, I think, with the form, right? Like the main questions here, right? The main questions for Top Esports, right? Was what kind of form will Mako bring? And I think Mako's playing wonderful. I think Mako's playing better than he did on EDG, and he's really, really making the roster come together. I think at the same time, Tion, that has sometimes had up and down performances, is performing super, super well. And I think the fact that they got 369 in the off-season is fucking fantastic. Really, really good. 369 is the guy that has equal points in all stats, you know, like he is just a mountain, you know. And I think that they really, really put this team together. They managed to drop a series against FPX, and that's of course will be held against them. But in the quality of that loss, I don't judge them so harsh for it, right? The key thing here for me, right? It's like I don't only judge the scoreline by the teams go by, because if you do that when it comes to the LPL, it can paint a false narrative, because the quality of your wins and your losses really matters. Really matters. And the loss against Top Esports, that's one of those losses that only happen once, right? And IP, for example, is a team that is very high up in the standing, but I don't think that they are a quality team. I think they've gotten away with rookie, very strong performances, and now Shanji, with the Kisanta nerfs, looks a lot worse as a player. Aki, extremely inconsistent, and Photic doesn't seem to be the same guy, right? And IP, to me, is not exciting, even though I love Rookie. So, back to Top Esports. Cream as well. I think Cream was one of the mid laners that the Western audience didn't pay attention to enough in the previous split. OMG bombed out, but Cream was amazing. Cream was amazing. You take a look at some of his Akali games, his LeBlanc games, his Ari games, his Kaiser games. He was a machine. Don't check that last one when he ults in and ins. It happens. But Cream is a fantastic player. Top Esports to me is a very, very complete team. Very complete team. So I put them fourth in terms of the prospects. In terms of the prospects. I'm not sure how Gen.G ranks higher than TES. I think that my concerns in terms of Cream's impact deeper into a season, Tian's impact deeper into a season, I think that there are some more proven qualities in the way Gen.G has been built. And I think that while Top Esports has a great fucking roster, I am curious to see how they develop as a squad, right? So I'm leaning towards Gen.G. So the next one, JDG. So JDG still, right? What is making them collect wins and make them look very fucking competitive is Kanavi, Ruler, and Missing. These guys are really, really fucking good. Yagao is still in the process of finding his place in this team. And Flandre, even though he's been okay, he's been decent, he's no 369, he's no Keen, he's no Zeus, and he's definitely no Bin. I think that JDG is a very strong team. Flandre has been decent, right? Yagao works very hard to participate, right? He works very hard to participate. And if you lose Knight, the best Chinese mid laner that you can grab onto your team for a team with Ruler, Missing, and Kanavi is Yagao. Yagao and Kanavi have won championships together. Right? JGG was very close to beating Bilibili. They probably should have won that game. JDG are not super crisp. They give away more, and they don't have at all the same level of coordination of last year. JDG definitely downgraded, which is natural. They lost Knight and 369. Replacing those two players is very difficult. But I think any team that has Missing and Ruler in the bot lane is going to be very fucking tough to beat, because you need to beat them a couple of times. They also lost their coach. Bilibili lost their coach. I didn't talk too much about the coaching staff, right? Top Esports have the coach of OMG, and he seems, he had a pretty decent run on OMG, right? Gen.G, they have Mata, Coach Kim, and Helper, and T1, of course, have Koma back, right? These are interesting aspects, but they are tougher to judge, right? Bilibili no Tabe, Someone mentioned if the meta shifts to hyper carry bot, JGG will be very hard to beat, definitely. But also look at just the names that we have on these rosters, right? It's like you have Pays, Gumayushi, you have Elk, Jackie Love. There's a trend in the teams that I've put in the top 5, right? There's a very clear trend, Very clear trend. Very, very clear trend. And of course, Ruler. This is where it becomes a little more difficult, I would say. Because I think that the LCK is definitely like a two-team region. Let's be honest, right? The LCK is a two-team region. We saw how hard smacked How Alive was, right? And I'm doing this real time, right? So I'm going to just pull up some names that are in my consideration, right? So we have How Alive is in consideration. We have G2. G2 definitely belongs here. G2. I think FPX. World Elite. I think this one might be surprising to people, but World Elite is definitely doing fucking well. Anyone's Legend, they as well. And then maybe, you know, you have some drifters like IG could maybe creep in with Leon and An playing really fucking well. Because this is where things become a little bit more difficult, right? EDG Monkey. Nah, I'm kidding. So KT and Damwon, I cannot consider KT and Damwon above these guys. I can't. I simply can't. Even in their matchup, KT versus Damwon, there was it was very, very poor, right? So it's like How Alive, right? So what does How Alive got going on for them? How Alive, I think the main thing for me, right, is that Zeka is alright. Zeka is not a mid laner that is going to do better than the mid laners above him, right? Like Zeka, his Tristana today was very poor. His Talia was like okay. He had those quirky games that always people like to reference. I think Doran is performing well. I think Viper is performing well. But Delight and Peanut don't have the same level of consistency and same level of performance like they did the previous year. I think life becomes a lot more easy when you basically have a mid laner that will always tell you the truth. And what I mean by that is when Chovy says he pushes and he wins, he does that. And I think that Peanut and Delight, even though that they have some good moves, and I think macro-wise they're going to be ahead of everyone else in the LCK, they give up a little bit too much against the likes of Genji and T1. And when they give a foot, these teams take a whole leg and then your body and then your whole carcass. So this is where it becomes a little bit more goofy to rate How Alive in regard and in comparison to the LPL teams. And also hand in hand G2. Because initially, right, and this is where I welcome disagreement, right? Because I know that after a week, I'll probably change my opinion. With more gameplay, I'll probably change my opinion. I want to put World Elite as the next LPL team. And people might be surprised, yo, Yamato, but in the standings, they're not that high up. I think World Elite as a team, in terms of the quality of their games, I think that the standings doesn't represent really what their journey has been. After Prince has been removed, I feel like this team has really come together. Really come together. So, World Elite, if we look at this match history, okay, their series against Bilibili, they had very competitive games. They made Bilibili sweat for it. They had a very cool I1D playing Bard. They had a very cool situation there. I think that Fofo and Wayward are having the splits of their lives. Really. These are players. These are players that I really didn't rate because I was very unhappy with how they played. Right? Really unhappy with how they played. But I think in terms of how they progressed, their series against JDG, their win against IG, I think that World Elite as a team is showing very good cohesion. I think this team is very solid. I like World Elite as a team. And I think in terms of what they've shown in the quality of their losses and the quality of their wins, I think this is a team that has a very strong future. Because I think as a team, they're on the same page. I think as a team, they are finding fights together. As a team, they are very, very connected. And I like that as attributes. Because I think those are attributes that you can replicate deeper into the season. And even though I'm not a big fan of Fofo, not a big fan of Wayward, they've had good performances this split. Plain and simple. And for me, World Elite is the team that I put next on my list, even though the standings might not represent that. I might change this around. I'm just referring to World Elite as my fourth best LPL team. Because when it comes to FPX and also IG, right? I think both of these teams are good in their own arena. And I say that FPX and IG are definitely going to have a harder time if they find themselves in best of fives. Milky Way has done absolute miracles. Milky Way deserves to be the MVP currently, so far, of the LPL. Milky Way has been fantastic. Leon has been fantastic. But when I think of these teams' prospects, when it comes to the spring, I remind you of my criteria. I think FPX is going to fall short. Milky Man is going to have a great career, but when I look at the roster that has Care, who works well with Milky, right? He does good. Milky does good, right? Care, Nico, Azir, Tuchik, cool. But my brothers, FPX, Diokdam, Life, Zhao Lahu. These guys are creating opportunities for Milky Way to make miracles. Okay? They wouldn't be in these fucked up spots sometimes if it wasn't for them, where Milky Way is allowed to execute miracles. They did the Nico, and then like Milky Way had like an immortal game fucking situation with his, of course, with his fucking, like, bro, he had like the Slumdog Millionaire type situation play out. Okay? So Fun plus Phoenix, right? I think those Kindred wins that they did, it was against Weibo. Weibo is struggling. They don't belong on the list. These guys, I think, these games are like Kindred Immortal games, right? The series against FPX, it's like, I'm thinking to myself, you should never give away Senna the way they did, right? NIP gave Senna twice. And Life is the kind of guy who has a big champion pool, is willing to play a lot of goofy shit, and that works perfect with Senna. Don't give these guys Senna, right? So I think in terms of the quality of these victories, I don't rate them super, super high in terms of future prospects. And a key thing to highlight here, the real true test, is FPX is playing against Bilibili, JDG, IG. These are three series where they can show a lot. And my point is, I think FPX as a team will lose a lot of steam because now everyone is viewing FPX the same way. Milkman is the guy to shut down. And as this becomes more apparent, I think their regular split prospects are also going to fall. Which brings me to Anyone's Legend. I think Anyone's Legend is legit as fuck. I like Anyone's Legend. I think Shanks is a beast. I think Shanks is a fucking beast. Shanks is a beast. And I think Anyone's Legend have had pretty fucking good wins. I think Anyone's Legend look better to me than the other teams. When it comes to Anyone's Legend, they're currently 7-3. I really like Shanks. I also really like Hope. And I currently put these guys above NIP and FPX in terms of their postseason prospects. Once again, I repeat, it's like this portion, it's like these five are very easy, right? These five are very, very easy. Very easy. The other five that I want to put in my top 10 become a lot more difficult, because here it becomes a matter of taste. I think that there's a world where FPX could move up, but I think, currently, I don't know if I'm making it personal with NIP, but NIP, I can't put them up there, man. I can't. I just have so little faith right now in Aki, and I think Shanji is just going to get worse with Kisante being nerfed. I can't put them in my top 10, so I need to remove them. In terms of the next in line, I really don't know how to judge How Alive in comparison to the other teams. I think that How Alive gets punished by demons, right? In the likes of T1 and Gen.G, but they are smacking noob teams around. And I think that macro-wise, I think How Alive still can outmaneuver some of these LPL teams that are less sharp. But I also open my mind to the imagination of being wrong here, right? Wrong, right? So, when it comes to my ordering, I think, I would be willing to put G2 right here. I think that G2, in comparison to G2 from last year, I think that G2's approach to the game has shown that they have a very, very good grasp of what is important macro. And by saying that is that they have players now that actively play for information and play on information. And that's why they are running the region. So many games, Caps is just farming side, controlling side. He has really, really good form. I think that G2 is a team that, while at MSI, I don't think they're gonna do amazing. I would be very, very impressed if G2 actually beat the top two teams of LPL or LCK. I think that's fucking hard. I think MSI is a way harder tournament to look good in than at the World Championship, because you're at the mercy of best of fives, double elimination, best of fives. It's very, very tough. But I think G2, for me, is a solid 7th here. Solid 7th. I think another cool thing about G2 in terms of their improvement, I think it's evident that Broken Blade has worked on his weakness. He's a stronger laner now. I think that in terms of Mickey and how dirty he plays, I don't think that's something that I would worry about. Some players deserve credit, and Mickey's a player that finds form again and again. I wouldn't be worried about Mickey. It's tough for me to compare How Alive really to the other guys. I admit that. But I'm going to put them there until we find out more. Right? The rest of the homies, it's a combination of these, right? It's like, where do we place them? Right? Where do we place these homies? This is where it becomes a little more difficult, because I actually enjoy anyone's legend. And when I think of FPX's and IG's postseason prospects, keep in mind, right? I remind you of my criteria. This is postseason. Spring split, where do they finish? I believe World Elite and anyone's legend is going to finish above both FPX and IG. But if they play tomorrow, I think it would be close. And even in the postseason, it will be close. I don't want you to believe that, wow, How Alive is above G2. They win every time. No, this is like a difference of like percentages. The same way up here. T1 being above Bilibili, maybe it's like 52-48. Gen.G against Bilibili, it's a question of percentages too. It's narrow, right? That's why they're in the same tier, right? It's narrow. But currently, I'm thinking something like this. where we land in the postseason. And this makes it 11 teams, right? This is 11 teams then. I am not underestimating the power of the Milkman, right? I think Milky Way definitely should be a top candidate for MVP of LPL. I just don't believe in his teammates. And I'm excited for Milky Way's career. But now Milky Way has a big ass fucking target on his back. And he will have to show a lot together with his team against the next coming matchups, because they are facing Bilibili, JDG, and IG. And IG, guys, Leon has been fucking fantastic. Leon has been really, really good. Leon has been really good, and I really like An. An is a very cool player. But IG has Cryan. That's rough. Not a fan of that. Right? If Milky Way is the MVP of LPL, is he also the best jungler player in the world? I think it doesn't really work like that. I don't think that you can judge a player based off of performance within games. So, the main thing that my point is by saying that is FPX have some dirty game situations that Milky Way is allowed to solve. And his input and output in those games is insane. I assure you, Milky Way on a team like Genji or Top Esports is going to look very different. That's why Canyon looks very different on a team like Genji, because what is required from the jungle position is very different. But Canyon is doing that to the best of his ability. He's fucking smurfing. You get me? You can't say that a player is the best player in the world off of a couple of best of threes, because that's what it is. Volume is super important. But when we think about the isolated games, he has had the most output. And that's why he's considered to be an MVP candidate. But I don't believe too much in IG, FPX in their long-term prospects. I repeat, this is where I think teams are going to land in terms of their power level in the postseason. If they play tomorrow, this list would look very different. But I worry about teams like IG and FPX in best of fives when they become isolated and they become focused. And that's it. That is my tier list. That is my tier list. I think we've covered everything that we want to cover, guys. Top 11, that would be FPX right now. It's like after that, you know, you have NIP. Like, maybe I'm treating NIP very personal because this team makes me very unhappy. You have NIP, you have Damwon, KT, right? You have, who else? Like maybe C9, right? I think C9 has a higher ceiling than FlyQuest, but I know very little about LCS. I admit that. Right? I think LNG should be in the conversation, by the way. The thing is, LNG is weird, but I think LNG will begin to ramp up. I have faith in Scout. I do. I do have faith in Scout. And Zika is showing himself a little bit more. They dropped Mark. They're playing better. They're playing better. They still have a fantastic roster. And I wouldn't be surprised if they beat some of these guys as long as they make playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if LNG sneaks in here and they beat these guys. Wouldn't be a crazy thing. Genuinely. Because in terms of how the playoff race looks like in the LPL, LNG, I think they will make it. I think they will beat our Weibo. But it's getting tight. It's getting tight. The schedule, they have LGD, EDG, and they have teams that they can show up against. Don't sleep on LNG. If you're a betting man, I would stay away from the LNG games, honestly. I think like maybe, like I can admit that maybe I have personal bias against NIP. I just think that, I don't know, they are winning series because Rookie and Sanji like giga overperformed, but Sanji just lost his Kesante. And unless Rumble becomes a super champ, I don't know. I'm not feeling this. I'm not vibing with NIP right now, man. I think also Fotik. Zuo is okay, but Fotik has not been himself. Like, Aki is tragic, by the way. Aki is really tragic. So NIP, I can't rate them. I can't put them up there. But basically, like if there would be some combination of these teams, you know, like these teams would like come in here, you know. Like these teams would come in here. It's just the rookie curse. The rookie Viper curse. Someone needs to like study that, man. Because it's like Wayward is suddenly smurfing. Why is Wayward smurfing? Yeah, it's like C9 with the roster that they have, I imagine that they can be somewhere here, you know? But I don't watch enough LCS, so forgive me, you know? I'm not gonna put them there just because, you know? I have started to watch LCS, I'm not gonna go back and watch VODs, sorry. I'm not gonna do that. Where would Matt go? Yeah, Matt would be somewhere there, you know? What do you think why Rookie is not getting on super teams like Top Esports and JDG? Well, Rookie is, first and foremost, he's Korean, right? So that matters. JDG have Kanavi and Ruler. So they needed a Chinese mid laner, right? A Chinese resident. Top Esports, they are a full Chinese roster. And they just had the run with Rookie. And Cream is a super exciting prospect. Super exciting prospect. Taking Cream over Rookie, as much as it pains me to say it, it makes sense with the rest of the roster. Billy, full Chinese roster, they took Knight. Can we argue with that? Not really. You want to put Rookie on a team? You put him on Hanwha Life. Or you give NIP Tarzan. There you go. Just put Tarzan in here, man. That's what I want to see. I want to have Tarzan right here. If a team had Rookie, Viper, Zeus, like if a team had Rookie, Viper, Zeus, Keria, and Canyon, they would go last place. The curse would be so heavy. It would be so heavy, bro. Like the coach, like I would be the coach. I would be riding my bike to work. I would get hit by a car every time, bro. I would just get hit by a car, hit by car. Like someone would poison my tea. Like the curse would be so strong. It would be crazy. It would be crazy, dude. Zuo is playing. Zero is not like he's coaching. He's not supporting. Zuo is the soup. Anyhow, that's it for today's episode, guys. I appreciate you guys sticking around. I will upload this Voice of Yamato on YouTube, and I'll catch you on the Flippity Flip. Let me see if Tenki actually cooked the Hanwha Life versus Genji series or if it was too one-sided. Let me see what he did. Oh, he did. So if you missed the series, I would love it if you guys check it out. This Voice of Yamato episode will be posted, of course, on YouTube, so I'll catch you guys. There's a bot that posted a comment and the picture has an ass. If you guys want to go check it out, enjoy. Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for streaming. I mean, did I just thank myself for streaming? Thank you so much for watching. And if you sneezed during this stream, bless you and bless your face. I'll catch you guys on the Flippity Flip. Bye bye. Show the Tierlist one last time. Remember the criteria. Remember the criteria. Don't go posting this on Twitter. Don't go posting this on Twitter, man. Don't go posting this on Twitter. We need the fucking context, yeah? We need the context. The context is important. Link the video.